Today, we are gonna talking about top 10 weakest armies in the world. Number 10, the Bahamas. This small Caribbean country is made up of 700 islands and has a population of approximately 400,000 people, most of whom are the descendants of African slaves. The country doesn't have a standing army or an air force to speak of. With its navy, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force is tasked with protecting its people. The RBF has around 1,600 enlisted men and women distributed into 3 squadrons: Commando Squadron, Patrol Squadron, and Air Wing. The country has 11 marine vessels monitoring its waterways, but its Air Wing is currently down to only 3 planes. The Bahamas military budget of $49 million was increased in 2014 by a $232 million investment for the Sandy Bottom project. Number 9, the Central African Republic. This war-torn country has seen its share of domestic strife, so you'd think it'd have a tough military. That is not the case, as the country's 4,500-man Central African Armed Forces have been condemned not just for a lack of military skills, but also for corruption, human rights violations, and general inefficiency. Its 4.7 million residents are guarded by 4 T-55 main battle tanks, for aircraft, 2 helicopters, and 51 armored fighting vehicles. Where the FACA has failed, the UN has stepped in to try to restore democratic freedoms and stability in the nation. $18.5 million for defense. There are 5,825 service members in the military. 6 airplanes are available for use. 79 units of armor power, watercraft, naval power. Number 8, the Gambia. The Republic of the Gambia, formerly known as the Gambia, is no stranger to internal warfare. According to reports, approximately a third of the country's 1.8 million residents live on less than $1.25 per day, which does not bode well for a robust military. The National Army and the Gambian Navy. The 2 components of the Gambia military each have 2,500 men. There have been several versions of the military since the country's independence from the United Kingdom in 1965, only for coups and unrest to destabilize them. There have been several versions of the military since the country's independence from the United Kingdom in 1965. The Gambia National Army currently has 900 men and a total of 12 armored vehicles. Many of its soldiers serve as peacekeepers in other African countries. When the government purchased a Sukhoi Su-25 assault fighter in 2002, the country considered establishing a Gambian air force, but it, like its unstable army, never got off the ground. Number 7, Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a nation in Western Europe that is landlocked. A country with a land size of less than 1,000 square miles does not see the need to establish a large army. Luxembourg now has 400 active troops, 100 of whom are civilians. Despite its modest size, Luxembourg has a $369 million military budget, which is a large sum for such a small force. They fought in both World Wars, as well as the Korean War. Luxembourg has 17 planes in its arsenal. Number 6, Barbados. Barbados is a tiny island nation with a population of around 278,000. The Barbados Defense Force, established in 1979, is made up of 3 components: the Barbados Regiment, the Barbados Coast Guard, and the Barbados Cadet Corps. The BDF's total manpower is estimated to be roughly 1,000 individuals, monitoring the waterways for signals of criminal activity, and stationed on the island in case of internal problems. According to reports, the country's air wing has 1 Cessna 402C aircraft. While Barbados has had to deal with new issues, the People's Republic of China provided $3 million to the BDF in 2016. In addition to the BDF's $49 million military budget, the money, however, was not intended to be used to purchase weapons, according to the Chinese ambassador to Barbados, but rather to help with disaster relief. Number 5, Tajikistan. The army of Tajikistan is an utter failure. Tajikistan, unlike other former Soviet republics, had no indigenous units to incorporate into its newly independent government. When the Soviet Union fell apart, Tajik military equipment is not from the Soviet era. Tajiks were left without protection with just a Russian peacekeeping team. In 1994, they created their own army, which almost immediately precipitated a civil war. Tajiks choose to serve in the Russian army, since it pays more. Abducted and hazed draftees are a common occurrence. Number 4. Mongolia. The Mongols do not have a navy since they are a landlocked kingdom. They're also trapped between Russia and China, and they can't protect themselves against either. In reality, if a Russian-Chinese conflict erupted, Mongolia would very certainly play a role in it. The Mongols have dispatched troops to Iraq and Afghanistan to aid the United States, but their specialty is in training American troops on how to recognize and operate outdated Soviet-made guns and equipment. Number 3. Iraq. Since Saddam Hussein's fall, the Iraqi army has become a shadow of its former self. The spirit and morale have sunk into a new low, and this is despite years of training from US and British forces. Recently, Iraqi lawmakers discovered 50,000 ghost soldiers in its ranks. These are troops who received a paycheck, but never showed up for work. This explains where the $26 billion in investments and military aid have been going. As a demonstration of their fighting ability, or lack of it, ISIS was able to overrun much of western Iraq, as Iraqi troops fled even before the Islamists' onslaught began. Number 2. Saudi Arabia. Despite having about 75,000 men in active service, the Royal Saudi Land Forces have failed to put down a rebellion in Yemen. The Saudis have led the operation. It is in fact called the Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen. The Saudis have everything it takes: superiority in numbers, collaboration with the United Arab Emirates (UAE), naval and air superiority, superior training, and the backing of US intelligence assets. They have been involved in this military action since 2015, but they have not been able to affect anything. The Houthi tribesmen are still in control, and it doesn't look like anything is going to change soon. Number 1. Afghanistan. This country has not been at peace since 1978, and the war against Taliban forces has been raging since 2001. It goes without saying that the people are tired. Having lost about 65,000 men, the Afghan security forces have been worn thin. Afghanistan has been receiving training from the International Security Assistance Force (ISAF) advisors, and then the Resolute Support Mission. Despite all the training, there is strong evidence that if the US ever does leave Afghanistan, the Afghan National Army will likely collapse like a house of cards. According to a 2009 report published in the news, the Afghan National Army was plagued by inefficiency and corruption. The training efforts by the US have been bedeviled by corruption, widespread illiteracy, diverted supplies, and the general lack of discipline. Another major problem with the Afghan National Army is the high rate of drug abuse amongst its soldiers. The Special Investigator General for Afghan Reconstruction said that the number of soldiers addicted to drugs was at least 50%, and that figure may be as high as 75% of all Afghan soldiers.